see it. Oh Lord, oh well, yeah. Whoa, 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 le, oh. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, whoa, yeah. I can see King Moses and Solomon chanting down the wall of Babylon. Yeah, I can see King Moses and the wise men. Yeah, chanting down the wall of Babylon. Let no man deceive you. Let no man rearrange you. Yes, they put us in slavery, and what they gave us was brutality. Whoa, oh. Whoa, yeah. Okay, so let's just move right into this. This is episode 17, and if you're following along, then you know the last part we were talking about King David, or actually he's not yet become king yet. He's just beginning to dip his feet in this fiery trial. He's had his soon-to-be father-in-law try to kill him at least on 2 different occasions that we're aware of, and set him up to be killed on several more. But the last verse that we looked at was in chapter 18, 1 Samuel, and we were talking about the fact that it says that David behaved himself more wisely. Okay, and that's the situation. You know, we're looking at him as one of our, as like, almost like I want to say like a prototype to this gang stalking, this targeting, you know, adult bullying, organized harassment, call it what you will. But he was one of the first one in recorded history, for those of us who are messianic believers, who use the scriptures, you know, as a sword, who use the scriptures as, if you don't want to see it as a sword, then we see it as a playbook. But he was one of the first, and we know he was not the first. We know that what Abraham went through with in terms of the king, you know, how he had set him up to be killed, you know, and his mother had to, I mean, he literally had to hide him in a cave, you know, he was going to be killed as a child, you know, so there were others, but, you know, we're looking at, this is like where we have like literally just like, almost like a blow by blow in terms of what he dealt with. But it says that he behaved himself more wisely, and that's, you know, what I was saying, that we have to, many of us, when we realize what it is that we're dealing with, okay, we sit ourselves down, and in a place of stillness, in a place of peace, we start to look at our lives and what we want out of life and what life has to offer us. And you know, we are that few who, you know, Netzarim, you know, branches of the Messiah, who decide that, yeah, we do want, you know, what life has to offer. You know, we're not going to back down. We're not going to just lay down on the side of the road and be trampled on. We're not going to throw away our lives, you know, and toss it in the bottle and drink ourselves into, you know, an early grave, or, you know, snort and smoke and inject, you know, and do all that other craziness. You know, we're going to behave ourselves wisely. And so I wanted to just say something quickly about that phrase, wisely, what that means. Because it is wisely, that doesn't mean cowardly, okay? Because that's something that you could never say about our Melech Dawood. You could never say that he was a coward, okay? But let's look at what another one of our prototypes, the King, our Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, who the world mistakenly calls Jesus Christ. What does he say? Matthew 10:16, he says, "Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." Okay, wise as a serpent. Now we know that a serpent is a word that is generally used in reference to these children of disobedience. It is a word that's used to describe their father, who is the devil. You know, a serpent who sidewinds, who doesn't even come at you head on. He comes from the side, you know, slithering, not back and forth, but, side to side, who it's hard to keep, it's kind of hard to keep your eye on. If you've ever seen, a snake in the grass, literally, while you've been gardening or walking through an open field and you see one, it's a little hard to follow them sometimes because of the way they move. Okay. So that's what, This is what the Messiah said. He said, be wise as a serpent. Now, note, he didn't say do as a serpent. He said, be wise as a serpent is, meaning know good from evil, know what is happening. And even, we look a little further at one of the observations that the Apostle Shaul made. We cannot be ignorant of the devices of our enemy. We cannot be ignorant, because that is how we end up in traps. That is how we end up snared, okay, and end up hooked up with some of these individuals. And many of us have had that experience where we find ourselves dating and mating and roommating with someone who we later find out was basically put in our path by design. Okay, they literally, somebody told them, hey, go hang out with so and so. Bring a dime bag, and offer to smoke some bong tokes and put on some cool music, and and then they do it, and we thinking this is a friend. We thinking, before we got wise, before we woke up, we thought this individual was a friend. And then come to find out later on, whoa, this is the door through which the other ones are coming through. So we be wise as serpents, okay, but harmless as doves. Okay, harmless, meaning we don't go out and we don't do, the fighting fire with fire. Okay, we don't, hack into their computers because we know they're hacking into our computers. We don't give them hang-up phone calls. We don't talk trash about them, around the copy machine or around the water cooler at work, because we know that they're doing that to us. We don't do that, because we know that all that does is that keeps the wheel going, that keeps it circular. And we're not about that. We are on a road that's going to keep us moving forward. Okay, that's what we want to do. We want to keep it moving. We want to keep going forward. So wise, David, it says that he behaved himself more wisely, so wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove, be not ignorant of their devices, know what they do, know, okay, that depending on, how we've acted in the past, they might have figured out some of our pattern, and maybe it's time to change up that pattern. If they know when we get our paycheck that we usually go out and go buy an eighth of weed and go to the bar and smoke, maybe it's time to stop doing that. Okay? Maybe it's time to, stay home. Maybe it's time to, just change up your pattern. Okay? Don't let them know. No, especially if you've decided that you're not going out like that. It's time for you to take some responsibility. And maybe that means getting into a little bit of therapy. Maybe that means getting into a 12-step program. Okay? Hey, if you truly want a life, if you truly want to have something to show at the end of your life, then that means getting a little humble. That means acknowledging some of your own flaws. That means maybe having to go back and apologize to some people, whenever possible. You do whatever it takes so that you do not end up in an early grave, so that you do not end up washed out, and wasted on the side of the road. Okay, just come on now, wisely. We have to behave ourselves wisely, especially when, think about the situation that he was in. He was living in the same house. I'm sure maybe it was a larger than a house, obviously, with someone who tried to kill him. Literally, just he's sitting there playing his little, instrument, trying to soothe and calm him down, and this brother got a javelin and throws it at him. That's like the equivalent of someone hanging out with a drug dealer that keeps a pistol right there on the coffee table, and anytime he can pick that pistol up and pump 2 slugs in you, and you do have to learn how to tread lightly around somebody like that, especially when you look at chapter 19. What's the very first verse say? And Shaul spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. Look at this. You see, this is what they do when they can't do it themselves, because remember, it says that he was doing this out of fear. He was scared of David. He feared David. So he couldn't do it. So then he decides, well, let me get, he's close friends with my son. Okay, let me get my son on board. And then I got all these servants. Basically, okay, this is it. This is, remember when, a few episodes back, when we were looking at the life of the Messiah and how the high priests, how they literally got together, and it says that used the expression they took counsel. Okay, they literally took counsel. They communed on what they could do. Well, here it is again. Well, this is the very first the very first verse in chapter 19. And he spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. Just out and out told them. Just straight up told him, this nigga, he's down, he's gone, okay? And I want y'all to help me do it. I mean, think about that. Think about that. Many of us have found ourselves in situations where we probably can't prove it, okay? But the way people started acting and literally giving us a hate vibe, okay, where we probably really felt that our life was on the line, where we could literally lose our lives. And we've got to look clearly and accept the fact that there are people out there who do that, okay, who literally take people's lives. Literally, okay, slip something in your drink, okay, that maybe makes you have a stroke when you're behind the wheel of a car. Literally get your equilibrium messed up so that you do fall down a flight of stairs and break your neck. Or somebody who could, if you're drunk and tipsy walking home, could literally push you in front of a car, who could literally drive you off the road. Okay, let's not play with this. Let's not pretend. This is not, if you truly start to behave yourself wisely, if you truly start to do what the Messiah told us, Matthew 10:16, wise as a serpent, well, then you have to look at that. You have to really sit down and look at that. And that means, when behaving yourself wisely, changing the way you act, changing the way you carry yourself. Maybe these are not the people that you would go drinking with. Maybe instead of having an open container, maybe you're gonna get a drink where you keep the top and you keep the lid, the top on the bottle until you're ready to take a sip, take the top off, drink a sip, put the top back on. I mean, that might sound a bit, dramatic, but I'm literally, think about that. Maybe you're not in an environment where you do take a cup of coffee. Somebody shows up, at work. This is your friend who you are now looking at sideways because you realize this is someone who is part of this problem. And they just happen to show up with a cup of coffee, extra cup of coffee. Just thought you might like one. No. This is where you politely decline. You stop taking their drinks. You don't go to dinner with them. You don't go out to lunch with them. Even if it's the same Taco Bell that you went to 3 or 4 times with them last week, you don't go anymore. Because for all you know, the person working at Taco Bell could be a friend of theirs who decided, well, yeah, we can put some strychnine in the taco. We ain't got no problem with it. I mean, and while that seems dramatic, while that seems over the top, Sephora may be getting a little too dramatic with your examples. Am I really? Seriously, do you really think that some of these people are not capable of doing that? I mean, come on now. We can't afford to be stupid. Again, 2 Corinthians chapter 2, I think it's verse 11. You cannot be ignorant of the devices. Of course they would do something like that. Come on now. This happens all the time. Hate to say it that way, but if you are literally sitting down, looking realistically at your environments, at the people around you, at the number of people who have fallen, okay, then you have got to be aware that, yeah, this happens. People actually do things like that. People actually do crawl under cars and cut brake lines. People actually do toss little pills in another person's martini and gives it to them and smiles at them oh so sweetly as they watch them drink it down. People will spit and loogie in a sandwich, put the other piece of bread on top of it, wrap it up, and give it to you. Okay, yeah, come on, let's be realistic. People will lace a joint and roll it up and give you the joint. Come on, Let's keep it real. You can't play. You can't pretend. Not if you want to make it through this for as long as you can, to live out every day that the Most High ordained for you to have before the foundation of the world. You cannot be stupid. You cannot play around with this, okay? And that is the situation that David found himself in. He found himself in a situation where he could be in the same room with Shaul over dinner, over drinks, sitting in the corner, playing his harp, and this fool could turn around, that evil spirit could get on him, and he could throw that javelin at him and pin him to the wall. That's the situation that he was in. Okay? Just keeping it real. And for those of you who would wonder, well, why would the Most High do that? Why would he put a spirit on Shaul that would make him even want to do something like that? Well, in all honesty, and that's where I have to just say, in keeping it real, I have no idea. I have no idea why that would happen, but I look at, in terms of the playbook, in terms of what we know about the Most High and what he says, he makes it very clear. We look in Isaiah chapter 55. What does he say? For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith Yahuwah. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. We have no idea why he would do that. Okay, but remember, this is a fiery trial, and when we look at those words, one of the things that we know is that this is not a trial for the Most High to find out who we are. It's for us to find out who we are. So clearly, okay, whatever was happening between those two, the Most High, this was so that David could find out who David was. Okay, the Most High already knew, already had it picked out. Okay, we know that, okay? So that might not be the answer that you want in terms of why there was an evil spirit put on Shaul. It might not be the answer that you want, but that's the only answer I can give you. I mean, I don't know why, okay? But I know that history has proved we have the playbook here. We have the sword right here. We know what happened, and we can look back at the life of David and see the victories, that he gained. Okay, but let's look at something else here. This is something that we can't let this go by. So Saul has talked to Jonathan, his son, and he's talked to his servants, and basically just said straight out, this brother's going down. Y'all got to kill him. Okay, and then we have something very interesting happen. Starting at verse 4, and Jonathan spake good of David unto Shaul his father. Check that out. And what is some of the things he says? Because he hath not sinned against thee. Yahuwah wrought a great salvation for all Israel. Thou sawest it and didst rejoice. Wherefore then wilt thou sin against innocent blood to slay David without a cause? Now that's called a friend. Someone who actually spoke up for him. Now that's something that many of us, we haven't had that experience, or maybe we have. I've had some incidents where I really think that someone did come to bat for me, and probably because they were not ignorant of the devices, okay, of the enemy, because they were wise as serpents. They didn't let me know that they spoke on my behalf, that they intervened, okay, that they threw themselves in front of the bullet, okay? I mean, I'm just using those expressions, but how rare is it to really have a friend that will literally stand up to someone who is, remember what we're dealing with here, what is not seen. This man has a spirit on him. Clearly, it's a spirit of hate. There's probably more than one spirit. I mean, from what it sounds like, he's got a spirit of hate, a spirit of fear. He's got a spirit of murder that is literally plotting and planning to kill this guy. 1 minute he's his friend, everything's fine, we're eating dinner, everything's fine. The next thing you know, he's picking up the javelin and he's throwing it at him. Okay, everything's fine. Then he's talking with his friends and servants about how to kill him. Everything's fine. Then he's plotting on how he can let him marry my daughter, and we'll set this up so that he has to get so many foreskins, and chances are they'll kill him. I mean, This is someone, we look at what is not seen, okay, as opposed to what is seen. What we see is a man in a position of power, okay, who's dealing with, some jealousy, who's dealing with some envy, who's dealing with some fear. That's what David is seeing, okay. But what is not seen is this entity, or these entities, okay, that are operating, that are influencing him, okay. But in the midst of that, you have one person, his son, who's able to stand up to his father and just literally talk to him, to defend his friend, and just literally say, he's never done anything to you. He actually did us a good, we have salvation. Israel has salvation because of what he did. You saw it. Why do you want to kill him? He hasn't done anything wrong. Man, what would that be like to literally have a friend? Okay? There's times when I wondered that. What would it be like to have a friend? And what it does is it puts me in a place, and I'm sure it's put many of us in a place where we admire that about Jonathan. And we take that to heart. And we become the type of person, we start to cultivate that type of attitude, that type of morality, that type of ethics in our own life, that we would be that way, that we will stand up, okay, that we will stand up for someone who doesn't have anyone else to stand up for them. We'll be the one to stand up for the other guy that they're getting ready to start singling out for the nonsense at work. Okay, we'll be the one to stand up for that homeless guy who smells really bad and who's always getting on the bus and never has any money. And everyone's, why'd you even stop for him? God, I can't understand it. Oh my gosh. Maybe we'll be the one to put the fare in for him that morning. Okay, we begin to admire those types of qualities. Okay, that's what I come away with when I read this. And I know that there are people who are just, sick and twisted enough where they want to try and take the friendship that Jonathan had with David and turn it into some homoerotic or homosexual whatever. But we know that's not the case, because we know by this time that they had been given the law, and we know that it states very clearly in the law that that is an abomination. So we know that that was not happening. We know that the Most High favored David. So clearly, if he favored David, then David was not going out doing anything like that. There's no way that David would have been committing an abomination and then going into battle and winning battles. Okay, the Most High, it doesn't work like that. Okay, so we know that to try to excuse this or blow it away, or shrug it off and say, well, they were just gay lovers or something like that. That's just that's more of the, again, this that gaslighting. That would be trying to take something and turn it into something sick and nasty. That's not what it was. They were friends. Let's keep it simple. They were friends. Okay, now and that's what when you don't have them, you admire that. Okay. But sometimes I think some of us get so lonely, so just anxious, because we are, in the end, many of us we're herd-like people. We want friends, we want close associates. It's paraded for us, on television. You see songs where they always have the sidekick and the best friend or the girlfriend, and so we want that. And so we lower our guard, we lower our standards. But again, when we start to behave ourselves wisely, we realize, I'll not have a friend before I have a friend who is really a frenemy, who is really an enemy. I would rather be alone. Okay. But just had to say that there. But if we keep on reading down, look at verse 9 here. And the evil spirit from Yahuwah was upon Shaul, and here it is again, as he sat in his house with his javelin in his hand, and David played with his hand. And Saul sought to smite David even to the wall with the javelin, but he slipped away out of Saul's presence, and he smote the javelin into the wall, and David fled and escaped that night. Okay, There it is again, tried to kill him again, just like that. And this was after, okay, notice this was after Jonathan had defended him. And what is it that, if we go back up to verse 6, and Shaul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan, and Shaul sware, as Yahuwah liveth, he shall not be slain. Okay, and so Jonathan, happily comes and tells David, hey, everything's cool, it's all smooth, it's all worked out, and it's going to be, everything's going to be fine, just like it was, as he says, in times past. But what happened? Another war comes up. David steps up to the plate, being honorable, doing what he has been charged to do, and that is defending Israel against its enemies. That evil spirit, again, what is not seen as opposed to what is seen. What is not seen starts influencing him. Lo and behold, he has to flee. Okay, and by this time, of course, we know that he has married Jonathan's sister. Okay, and these people, what does it say in verse 11? We're looking at chapter 19. What does it say? Saul also sent messengers unto David's house, what? To watch him and to slay him in the morning. So there it is again. You have these people that are watching you. We know, many of us, we know what's going on. Okay, we get home and so-and-so always makes it a point to be out on their doorstep, bringing in the trash or taking out the trash. They just happen to be there. They see when we come in. They know our going-ins. They know our comings out. Some of them, depending on how, whatever they've got going, whatever, I don't know, energy being weapons or whatever, they know, what channels we're watching on TV. They know, what our YouTube channel is. I mean, these people, they watch, they're watchers, okay? That's what they do. And they were watching him. But we know his situation was such that, luckily, his wife, was on his side and helped him out. And he was able to get away. He literally had to climb out a window and flee. Okay, and then of course we keep going down, and we know we got some snitches up in there who they went and told him. And remember, we were reading the headings of some of the different psalms, as to when he wrote some of the psalms and what was going on, why he wrote them. And some of it was because of that there were these people who literally were watching him, who were going and snitching and telling, Saul, well, he's over here in this part of Judea, or he's over here, and just, had him on the run. Okay. And that, again, many of us have had that experience, where we've literally had to put together money, or go to a social service organization and, ask for that, that little stipend or whatever funding that they have to give us help us get the Greyhound bus ticket, or to get the money together to get the gas cards or whatever. And we're calling friends, and who we hope are friends, and maybe they can send us some money, wire us some money, PayPal some money or something, and we literally have to get out of town. Okay, we literally find ourselves, as I shared, on some of my videos, those first videos that I did, talking about, that Greyhound bus trip, and how there were people who literally were on the Greyhound bus too, doing their nonsense, But then we have a situation where we get over into where we're in verse 20, where again, Jonathan comes to David's rescue. And I'm not going through all of this, and if you get a chance, just read through it, especially if you are, committed to this in terms of surviving this, in a way that is done with wisdom, in a way that is righteous, where you don't have any regrets, because we know there's many ways to deal with this. Like I said in the last video, you have people who they're being attacked, and they're using, they're fighting fire with fire. They're going out and they're, giving people hang-up phone calls, and, talking smack about people and gaslighting people, and, spitting in people's drinks because so-and-so spit in their drink, and, that, because that's, that happens, and there are people who, they're not, they've reached that point where, they're not going to take it anymore, and the next person that comes up and coughs or clears their throat in a weird way, well, it's on and popping, you know what I mean? And that's how they choose to deal with it, and that's fine. Everyone, deals with this how they deal with this. But we understand. It's like what Peter said. Think it not strange. This fiery trial. It's a trial. We are being tested. We are being tried, so that we can find out who we are. What is it that makes some of us want to handle this in this fashion? Okay, where we want to increase our prayers. There was a time, when we were doing good to pray for 10 minutes. And now all of a sudden we will literally put the clock out, on the table stand and, kind of keep an eye on it, but we will increase our prayers. We will stay down on bended knee and pray for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50. We will do it. We will increase our communication with the Most High. We will fast. There was a time we were doing good to fast a meal. Boy, we couldn't, belly growling, okay? It's noon, belly growling. Now we will literally go 2 days, 3 days, abstaining, afflicting our soul, because we know that the more we mourn, the more riches increase. Because we want those types of blessings. How is it that we are the ones who are making, those choices? Because like I said, there's many ways to deal with this. There are many ways to deal with it. There are people who are literally dealing with this, in terms of like maybe just their diet. They're looking at cleaning up that area of their life, and they feel that that's fine. They can tell you all about, the chemicals. They can tell you all about, what substances are in foods, and, what foods to avoid, and, dealing with the molds in the house, and that's valid. And I'm not putting that down, because that is, it's all of it is it's multifaceted. Okay. And I don't think that you can go wrong with that. You have people who are literally, setting up, I'm going to call them tents. I don't know what they are, but they have them in their houses. They have the aluminum siding, and they are, because they're dealing with the direct energy beam weapons, or they're dealing with, the microwave weapons. And so they're finding that way to deal with it. But those of us who are dealing with this, where we're being satanically attacked, where people are using the witchcraft on us, where they are using the mobbing, the organized harassment, why is it that we're choosing, to do this, to use the scriptures, to use literally, a sword? It's a sword in the spirit realm. And I had a chance to talk to someone, it's a minister. She's got a channel. Her name is Christian, and she shared with me that there was a time before she, turned to the Most High, that she had been caught up in some of that. And so I asked her. I said, is the scriptures, is the Bible, are these words, are these verses, is it a sword in the realm of the spirit? Does it literally cut spirits? Does it literally have that effect on them? And again, this was someone who was into that new age witchcraft, the crystals, as she shared with me, she had at one point was trying to commune with aliens, and now, which she knows now, of course, but they really were demons. Okay, that's the terminology that they use. But she was doing that, and so I asked her, and because now, of course, she's a minister, she has changed her life around. She is someone who is definitely committed to this, who has a testimony, and who lives her testimony. And so I asked her, is these verses, are they in the spirit realm? Are these verses, are they swords? Do they cut? Do they affect these entities? And she was like, yes. She told me in no doubt, yes. And I was just, man. I mean, I knew this. I've just had too many experiences with this. But see, that's from my perspective. I've never been into that, that new age, I've never done it like that, but she, of course, had that experience. And so she confirmed it. Yeah. And so, that just for me, it was just it just confirmed, and so for us, this fiery trial, we know that it's worth it because we're getting something out of it. Now, this hasn't eased up, you know. I know that when I step outside, my door, there's probably going to be one or two red cars somewhere along the way here. And it's going to be somebody, wearing some red, red shoes or red belt or red ski cap or whatever, saying whatever it is they're saying and doing whatever it is they're doing. But, now it's changed in the sense that, I know the devices. And, and knowledge is power. And one of the verses, in the scriptures that he says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. When we don't know, that's when we can be destroyed. And so we don't want to go that route. And that's really what the Most High is doing. He is allowing the enemy to turn up that furnace. A fiery furnace, okay, that can melt gold and turn it into liquid so you could pour it in a glass, okay? And all these impurities are coming up, all of those bad habits, all of those crazy ways that we would have used in the past when we were, in, high school and, junior high, or, when we were in our, early, 20s or whatever. We would have, gone out and said, yeah, come on, start some stuff now, nigga, I'm standing right here. We would have done that. But now, we don't act that way. We know that, brother is a child of disobedience. That chances are he probably doesn't even know that he's a child of disobedience, depending on where he comes from, his background, and how he was raised or she was raised. This is what you do. That's how you treat people. But we know differently. Okay, so yes, 1 Samuel chapter 20. Now, this is where again the fire gets turned up. And look at verse 30. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. And he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion, and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Okay, so now we've got a situation here where the one friend that he had, that was a true friend, that was a sure friend, that one friend is now, he's having to face the heat. And that's something that I know I've dealt with, and I know that many of you have, where you do have that friend, but there's always that fear that something's going to happen, that somehow they're going to turn them against me, that they're going to say the right thing, maybe, get them in a compromised situation, or maybe they're helping them out and giving them extra hours at work and taking them out after, hours to go to happy hour and drink and, talking some smack and most, people being sheeple and sheeple being sheeple, they all of a sudden fall for that old okey doke. And then that one friend that I had is now no longer a friend. And, excuse me, apologize for that. And I've definitely had that happen. It got so, at one point, at one point, I would, make friends, and I would, try and, this was before I knew that it was called gang-stalking and targeting. I didn't know that this was what it was called. All I knew was that, as I would say, there were some people that were messing with me, and I would, say to them, well, I don't know, don't be surprised if some people come up and start, saying some stuff about me, and, I don't know, they just can't stand me, and they just, I don't know, it just really sucks. And always, again, sheeple being sheeple. Oh, that doesn't matter to me. Oh, I think that you're just, so cool, so, don't worry. I decide for myself. I don't let people decide things for me. And I'd be like, yeah, okay, well, sure, cool, right on. And lo and behold, 2 days later, 2 weeks later, this individual who was would never, decides for, herself or himself, all of a sudden they're sitting up here co-signing, okay, and even jumping on board, And so this is where, when I read this part, this passage, this was just, my heart went out for David, I mean, the one person who literally had, the backbone, okay, who didn't get all knock-kneed, but, stood up, to Shaul, now all of a sudden he's being told, he's cussing out, saying stuff about his mom, threatening your kingdom's not going to be established. As long as this dude is above ground and breathing, you're not going to move forward ahead. And basically, they end up, they can't be friends any longer, or there's a separation that has to happen. And that's just, that's really hard. But, it's not fair. And it hurts to lose friends, especially friends who, if things were different, they could have remained your friend, but, that's not, it just wasn't meant to be, and one of the things that we know for us living here in this earth age, at the end of this earth age, we know that it was prophesied to happen. We're living in that time where the love of men has waxed cold. Where you have people who literally will do things like try to drive old ladies off the side of the road, in a red car, and, music blaring real loud and headlights up full beam, getting them disoriented and driving them off the road. Where they will threaten a young mother, threaten her child, and kill her if possible. Sneak up in her house, put something in her food. I mean, we know that's the world that we live in. But we have a Most High, and He does not leave us defenseless, because we know that as the Messiah said, wise as serpents, harmless as doves. It's the Most High who is a man of war. Okay? It is the Most High who can take it to him. We can't. Trust me, I know I can. I've tried, and each time I try, my own flesh gets in the way and the situation gets worse. But I know that we have those of us who, like myself, many of us who are descendants of Abraham and who are righteous and living righteous lives, that we have access to that promise that was given to Abraham. And those Gentiles who are grafted into the olive tree, that they have access to that promise, where the Most High promised Abraham, He said, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And so we know we have that Abrahamic curse, and I have used it, and I know many people who have, where you literally get down on bended knee, and you tell the Most High what's going on, and you ask Him, you remind Him, which is what He says in the scriptures. He says, remind me. Let's see if I can find it here. It's in the book of Isaiah, where He literally says, remind me of my word. It's in, find that. Let's go to Isaiah. I'm going to go to, no, I can find it. I know what I'm going to do, because I want to give you the exact word, because I don't want you sitting up here saying something that I can't. Okay, so we're going to go to Isaiah chapter 43, and we're going to look at verse number 26, and He says straight up, put me in remembrance, let us plead together, declare thou that thou mayest be justified. So He said, yeah, so let me know. Let me know. We're looking at precept upon precept, okay? So don't anybody get on there on the comment page and say, well, that's really talking about during the lifetime of Isaiah, when, precept upon precept. Here a little, there a little, line upon line, okay? But He's saying, literally, remind me of my word. Let us plead together. And so we know that we have the right to go to Him on bended knee and say, look, Father, this is what is happening. This is what these people are doing to me. Please, You know these people. I don't know. You made them just like you made me. You know which ones are messing with me and what it is that they have planned for me. I ask thee, Almighty Father, please remove them from my path. You promised Grandfather Abraham and all his descendants that you would bless those who would bless me and curse those who would curse me. I ask thee, please put their curses back upon them. Now I know that I've done that. And I've seen it literally. I've literally seen my enemies removed from my path. So we are not helpless. We are not defenseless. Okay? Wise as serpents, harmless as doves. Let him deal with them. Whenever I've tried, it never works out. Okay? My flesh gets in the way and it ends up being worse than it was. But when I ask him in that way, it always works out. And if you plead and you pray, include a little fast in that. And you will see that it will work. Write praises. Read the praises to him. Cultivate a relationship with the Most High. And you will find that this situation like where David was in, okay, where he lost a friend. He had to let him go. Him and Jonathan, they went separate ways, okay? And but their friendship was never lost, because we know that he honored Jonathan even after Jonathan had passed on. He honored Jonathan's son, and he honored Jonathan's son because he honored and respected Jonathan. This fiery trial. But that's one of the things that we find is that we do have a relationship with the Most High, that he is there for us, and we know that he is a man of war, and we know that we, the righteous, okay, those of us who are literally blood descendants, and those Gentiles who have grafted themselves into this olive tree, that all of us become the apple of his eye, and pity the fool who messes with his children.